and welcome to this edition of FOF Live. As we are here tonight to preview this upcoming series against the Seattle Mariners and your Miami Marlins. As you can see, we have a filled panel here tonight to preview this upcoming series as the Marlins are red hot after facing the Chicago White Sox. And as always, here is your panel. We have Isaac Azut, Eli Sussman, Kevin Barral, Grant Kiefer, intern Nick, and our special guest, one of the best names in history, Mr. Danny Rodriguez.
Top two
on Twitter. Danny, talk to us. Talk to the masses.
How we doing, guys? It's good to be back on the show. Let's talk some Marlins.
And let's start last game. I think we have to start with Kevin because he was the most excited from seeing that game last night. I guess the White Sox. Kevin, talk to me what you saw, especially at that ninth inning with DLC.
It was impressive, and there's just no other way to put it. This is a team that I think we've mentioned many times. You don't feel really too worried about them being down a couple runs, and they proved it once again that despite being down a couple runs, they could still come back. And Soler, Coop had the homer, Gene Segura had the homer, and then you had Brian De La Cruz, who just came clutch right at the end, got that RBI double. So, I mean, nothing much more to say. Braxton looked good, probably a little bit. Some may disagree with the decision to keep him, to pull him out in that inning where they did. But besides that, the middle game was good. And then unfortunately, despite a good Erie start, Miami really couldn't get anything going in that first game. But really proud of this team. I think you got to feel really good where they're at now. And you're going to face a pretty good Seattle team despite them, being under expectations right now.
Yeah, really great performances, especially from Gene Segura, who got his first home run. Everybody in here was throwing glasses like it was New Year's Eve, the stroke of midnight. Gene Segura hitting his home run. Grant, talk to us a little bit about the Gene machine.
I mean, yeah, it was pretty improbable, but look, I feel like he's just due at some point to heat up. We all looked at, obviously, El Garcia's contract being a bad one, and will he ever pick it up? I think you're way more likely to see a guy like Segura pick it up. I mean, he is a contact guy. The outfield's pretty wide open in Lone Depot. We were talking about this a little bit last night on State of the Fishes. That was one of the reasons why he wanted to come to Miami. So I'm hoping this is the first domino to fall, and maybe Segura heating up. Fingers crossed on that one. We'll see. But I think his outlook for the season is a little bit better than what people are saying. I'm not 100% on DFAing him yet, of course, unless they have a better upgrade in the works. We'll see. We've got a little less than 2 months to the deadline, but yeah, I'm excited to see Segura actually live up to what that contract's worth.
Well, Carver isn't here, so to do him justice and keep him a part of the Segura conversation, it's only right that I played the clip.
He cannot play. He's absolutely cooked. Done. His career is over. Okay.
Anyway,
Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah, I got a point. I do have the point out with Segura. We thought he was about to flip the switch on a month ago. That is when they benched him. He got ejected out in Arizona. They sat him a couple days. I love that move by Skip. I thought that was actually going to turn him around. And then the first couple days after that, there was encouraging signs. But honestly, over the last month, he's been almost as bad as he was the first month and a half until this particular series. So once again, he tied together a couple good games in a row. Finally, can you imagine if that ball just curved foul and how differently this whole vibe would be if they end up losing the game and he still is has the goose egg in the home run column. It was by the thinnest of margins that he got something done here. So I'm still pessimistic with him, but at the same time, I've been really stunned at how he's gone this deep into the year, struggling as much as he has. So pulling in both directions, I don't know what to expect, but what we've heard throughout the whole year is that the team really respects him. His teammates love him, and everybody believes that he's putting in the work behind the scenes to get right. So you can't help but, pull for him that he takes advantage of this opportunity that he continues getting pretty much every day at third base.
I really hope he gets it. He continues it. But in my opinion, that series was more the White Sox aura of being the White Sox, more so than Gene Segura getting going. Because the White Sox this season, there's just something about that team. Nothing is going their way. So that ball stayed fair because there's some curse going on in that stadium, in my opinion.
To go a little bit back from that, we talked about the hitting. We got to talk about the pitching. I'm going to go to Isaac to this one and talk to me about your boy, Braxton Delish Garrett. Talk to me a little bit about him.
Man, I just curious to see what would happen if they let him go a third time through the order. I know they're strict with Luzardo sometimes and sometimes with Cabrera just because he doesn't let himself go deep into games. But Braxton Garrett, there's been times where he has literally almost faced the minimum through 5 or 6, and they do not let him face that order a third time through. So I'm just curious to see what would happen. I think a lot of you guys are right that it's tough to maintain what he's doing with the lack of velocity and lack of quote unquote stuff that he offers. But in my opinion, he's got one of the best breaking balls on the staff. And I think he sort of earned himself the right to go deeper into these balls games. But hey, on Saturday, I believe it was one of the best starts of his season. I wouldn't say of his career, as you guys were telling me in the group chat, but it definitely was one of his best starts of his season. And yeah, he's going to have another tough test in his next time out for sure.
Do we know his ERA now? If you took out the Brave series, is it like a 1.5? Or what's his ERA?
He's been amazing.
It's not quite that low. I have it at 2.73 in all of his other starts, and that's a big sample at this point. We're at like 11 other starts outside of that. He's been great outside of that one performance. The cutter has been a difference maker for him. The peripherals are still pretty ugly, and we know that the few opportunities he's gotten the third time through, it's kind of a mystery to me that knowing how important it is to keep these relievers fresh, knowing that with Yuri, the leash is super tight. With Braxton, I don't understand why they can't in certain situations be a little more flexible there, because I think it would be best for the team if they, even when, you worry about him slipping up, sometimes you go to the pen and this pen's not perfect. So Skip even acknowledged himself that, that one was on him and that it didn't work out, and he takes responsibility for it. But it still hasn't really been fully explained why, even when he's absolutely cruising as he was for a lot of this game, why there aren't any exceptions to this really strict limit that they have on him, where it's not even a pitch count thing. He's so efficient. He is like a Sandy level efficient with how he's getting through these batters too. They just, all you can think is that it's about the third time through the order, and feeling that with his stuff, that if he misses just a little bit of movement as the game goes on, or if he just becomes more predictable, that I guess they just fear that he's going to get barreled up after a while. But I would have liked to see him go deeper in this particular start.
Yeah, and I think he's earned the leash also. He's been so good ever since he got the opportunity last year. I think he's earned the opportunity to see what he can do in later innings, and it might not go their way, but I mean, if I'm Braxton Garrett, I feel like I've earned the opportunity to see what I can do going deeper in the games, even with the Marlins bullpen being that good. I mean, like if he's cruising like he was with the White Sox, I mean, one more inning, I don't think that was too much to ask for.
And he strikes guys out too, which is just so impressive because he stays efficient like Sandy. But usually when Sandy's that efficient, he's pitching in contact. He's getting these 7-8 pitch innings. But Braxton is striking guys out. In his last 6 starts, he's got 41 strikeouts and 32 innings pitched. He's just been phenomenal ever since that 11-run massacre of a game against Atlanta. He's going up against some pretty decent opponents as well. He had the Giants, he had the Padres, he's had the Mets twice, he's had the Braves twice, one of them including that horrific start that we don't discuss. But he's just been phenomenal. Like it's pretty surprising.
I think Skip may have realized this time around he's kind of messing it up with Brax. So hopefully this time around in his next start, I believe it's Washington, they'll let him go a little bit longer. Maybe 6-7 innings would be nice. Brax, if he's still, if he looks like he did in this start against Chicago and even past starts. So I hope this time Skip has realized, I made a mistake this time, and I think I'm just going to let him go a little longer this next time around against Washington.
Yeah, he has only recorded an out in the 7th inning once this year.
And to go a little bit more on pitching, I want to go back previous game or the first game, I should say, and talk about Yuri Perez and how well he did against the White Sox. And a lot of people were thinking that might have been his last start as a Marlin until maybe future notice, maybe around August, September. But with the setback to Trev, we'll be starting the Seattle series, so that probably will be his biggest test so far as a Marlin, how he gets through that lineup. But again, 5 innings, 5 hits, 1 run, which was a homer, 2 walks, 6 Ks. Nick, what did you see from Yuri? And in your eyes, did he earn himself to stay on the active roster for the rest of the season?
I 100% think he's earned, at least for a significant amount of time, until he starts showing signs of slowing down and not being an MLB-ready pitcher. I don't see any reason why we'd send him down. Even when Trevor does come up, we might have to figure out some kind of 6-man rotation thing. But with how Yuri's been pitching, he's striking out a decent amount of guys. He's being pretty efficient when he pitches. There just doesn't seem like a reason to send him down and kind of stunt his growth in the majors. I know we have a tight leash on him. We're not letting him pitch that many pitches, getting too deep into games. But he's looked good in every game he's pitched in, I think. Basically, I know he hasn't had to face the Braves yet, which obviously for anybody, it's going to be a tough battle. But he's had significant time to go in there and go out and pitch really good. And I don't see a reason right now to send him down.
Yeah, and there's been lots of talks, and also in our group chats, talking about Yuri, Trev, what to do there. Eli, what do the Marlins do with Yuri Perez and Trev? Because that's the biggest question so far.
It's a great question at this point. There isn't a perfect solution. It's a great problem to have as we keep going over, where they feel like they have these 6 competent starters, but the way that Yuri has been pitching, like it's pretty simple to me that the way he's performing, he's one of the best 13 pitchers, even if you're not definitive on him being a top 5 starter. And even if you're worried about what happens when you push him deep into the games, and acknowledging the reality, as Mish pointed out very directly, that it's a short innings limit. He's probably halfway to his total season innings at this point. I feel like he just needs to be on the roster one way or another, even if that is in a long relief role. Just having him on the team, especially at this point where I don't think you can name like 8 relief pitchers that you'd rather have in the pen over him, even if he's new to it. It just feels clear to me that he should be on the team in one form or another. I mean, it depends how Trev also looks in his final rehab game. He's looked solid. He's kind of looked like the same version of himself on this rehab tour, and he's bullying these minor leaguers. That's good to see, but it's not like, there's still questions about him. Most importantly, how deep he can go into games. Over the last year and a half, Trevor is averaging less than 5 innings to start. That's really the only hole you could poke in Yuri, is that they're not comfortable having him go past 5 innings, and you're not getting anything better from Trevor realistically, unless you think he's going to flip the switch back to where he was 2 full years ago. I think a 6-man rotation has some interesting potential, but at the very least, just having Perez on the major league team when he's performing the way that he is, 1 run allowed in his last 3 starts combined. It's a good problem to have. The way that he's performing, I just feel like he should be on the pitching staff in one
100%.
role or another.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and but we could probably take a poll here. How many of you guys would rather have Trev compared to Yuri on the roster? Would you guys rather have Yuri on there or Trevor? If you had
we could only have one or the other.
On the rotation.
Yuri.
I mean, I'd probably go Trevor, just because. I mean, Trevor is second in Rookie of the Year voting in 2021, and he looks like more of that version than he does the 2022 version this year. Obviously, the injury held him back a little bit, but we know Yuri isn't going to be in the rotation from now until October. If Trevor comes back after this rehab start, we know he's going to be in the rotation, so we know he's going to help us for the rest of the year.
Yeah, you don't know if he's going to get injured, though. So, again.
I mean, you can't say, you don't know if Yuri's going to get injured either. So that it goes for both of them.
So how about, I don't know, this is probably out of the box, but I'll pose this question. What if, you have Trev come back, a couple good starts. Do you see the Marlins trade him and stick with Yuri? Do you see the Marlins in a way trading Trevor Rogers get here that he can have a few good outings? And I'm posing that question to you as the host. I'm not saying it'll happen. I'm posing it as the host.
I say if Trevor comes and shoves, you don't trade him. You don't trade Yuri, of course. You trade Braxton Garrett. You sell high on him. I think that's the move. I know Eli doesn't want to trade any pitchers, but there are guys from the minor league that I want.
Yeah, I mentioned this on the Spaces last night. I'm just, for a team in this position, I'm not a fan of trading any of their major league starters. If they
Braxton is doing great.
Yeah, if they sit with the major league starting depth that they have, with 5 guys there right now, and Trevor and maybe Cueto. We're really pessimistic about Cueto, man. He
oh my god,
he looks so thoroughly washed. Unfortunately,
hey, they could trade Cueto for
but that being said, yeah, they. You trade from your minor league to accomplish your goals this season. You don't trade from your major league rotation options at this point. You go to your minor league depth, and there's not a ton of that, but I mean, we'll see where.
I feel like we could get some serious. I think we could get good talent out of the lower to mid minor leaguers that we have right now. I think we could package something together for a solid catcher or an infield talent.
And now, the Marlins are hot, and it's still ways away to the trade deadline. We're not even at the All-Star break. But if the Marlins continue this way, let's say they're 7, 8, whatever, anywhere from 5 to 8 games over 500, do you guys see them as buyers, like serious buyers?
Yeah.
Whatever that means for this team.
Just because the schedule coming up is just so favorable for them to be in an amazing position. And obviously the August schedule is going to be tough, but if a move to the bullpen might work for Yuri if Trevor's healthy, plus whatever additions to the offense they make, I think they could tread water in the month of August and be competing in September.
Yeah, especially the way the division is going. If the Mets can continue to be the Mets, if the Phillies still under,
you can count on the Mets being the Mets.
And just perfectly the way it is. The Marlins aren't even the last wild card at the moment. They're the second one, so if they can even stay there, who knows what will happen. But to go from that,
it just sucks, honestly, not having like a lot of these teams have a stud prospect that they can call up as like a little inject of energy, and we just don't have that. I mean, we have Yuri, but like on the offensive side, there's just nothing there.
Jacob Berry time, Joe.
Let's get it.
I mean, the 6-man has its positives and negatives. In this case, the negative would be Miami loses a reliever, which, yeah, whatever. But that bullpen's been pretty good. So and it benefits Yuri. And I mentioned this on the Spaces last night, how much it benefits Yuri. I mean, he doesn't have to go that long. He gets another day of rest. It can't get better for him. And if you really want that innings limit, you keep it and the pitch limit as well. So,
but Kevin, what about my fantasy team? He's gonna get less. He's gonna get less starts. Sandy too? I don't know if that's a good idea.
Yeah, from what I understand, the main reason they don't want to do a 6-man is it's an extra day between Sandy starts. And I know you can make your jokes about that with how Sandy has been this year. I think he's fine, but that is the main reason why they don't want to do it. I don't necessarily agree with it too much. It's not like he's not pitching every 2 weeks. He's still pitching it once a week. So that's my opinion. I agree with you guys. I think you don't know when you're going to be in the situation again. The Marlins are 8 effing games over 500, and we're in mid-June. You don't know when you're going to be in this position again. You need to have all hands on deck. And even if it's a 20-year-old kid, you need to have them all up here pitching in the rotation. Imagine those 6 guys, and all of them are good. You do that. I know it might hurt the bullpen a little bit, but shit, dude, that's what you do if you're me. But it's not my choice.
Yeah. And you mentioned the bullpen. Who will be the first guy you guys get rid of in that bullpen? Who's the first guy that's maybe
Oscar Brazoban needs to go.
No. The thing with Brazoban,
Jayville, Duval, Oscar Brazoban.
Brazoban is the only guy that can give you 3 to 4 innings out of that pen.
Hoeing could do it.
Yeah,
right. But I think
we get Alex Carver a lot of stuff about Hoeing.
Hey, Nardi has been him this year.
Yeah,
I love Nardi.
It slipped my mind that Hoeing is still on the major league bullpen.
He's been good too. He's been pretty damn good.
Yeah, he has been good.
I mean, Matt Barnes is injured, right? So I don't know if they
I mean, yeah, Matt Barnes is
Yeah, but you want him late in the season, especially if you do make the post. You would like him back. He's got some pretty big experience. So yeah, you either option Brazoban or Hoeing.
And also, he's the highest paid reliever on the team.
Highest paid?
Pretty sure, isn't he?
Is it Barnes? I think.
I'm pretty sure it is.
I think Barnes is making the most money, but most of it from the Red Sox.
Yeah,
is that what it is?
Yeah.
Now
do you consider trading a reliever? I mean, there's so many of them. Do you trade one to bring back Barnes, and you still get?
Who do you trade, Kev? That's the thing.
Brazoban's pretty. I mean, if he's the one that's been the odd man out,
I just love the energy in the bullpen right now. I don't know if messing with that is the move.
You're gonna have to mess with it when you bring back Barnes.
Well, I mean, options somebody down. As you see here, a lot of these guys have options. Brazoban has options.
He does.
And Hoeing has options, and
honestly might be Hoeing who gets the hook.
Probably.
Yeah. When was the last time Hoeing even pitched? I don't even.
Last night. Yesterday or the day
He
before?
had a long
It
absence.
was either yesterday or today, but he pitched.
Yeah, he had a 5. Yeah, he's pitched twice since June 1st. Okay. So a bit there, but I wanted
It's
to
a
go
good
ahead.
situation to have too. I'll say. I mean,
yeah.
Marlins from last season to this season to be in this situation where you like every single guy in your bullpen for the most part.
It's insane.
That's nice. It's nice to have it. Yeah.
And to go from the bullpen, let's talk about the hottest hitter on the planet. No, not Jesus Sanchez. I don't know if we have to DFA him because he's hitting under 400. I don't know if we got to DFA him now. But Luis Arias and what he's doing, now officially the leading vote getter for second baseman in the NL. I'm guessing, Isaac, did we win the Arias trade? Is it official? Is it official now that we won that trade? Or the Marlins
Did the
win that
Marlins
trade?
win the Arias? Did the Marlins win the Arias trade?
Looks like it.
For now, I guess. I don't know. I wouldn't say they've won it. You know, the Twins got some good pieces, and Pablo Lopez is a great starting pitcher. But yes, that trade is looking fantastic for Miami right now. Is it still
Delish. You're not allowed to say any word other than delish.
More multi-hit games and strikeouts? Is that still the case? It's ridiculous. In this day,
that's like a Tony Gwynn-esque stat. Honestly.
He is a Tony Gwynn clone right now through this 450 games, as Lewis likes to tweet out. I think weekly updates of their comparison. they are wow, so comparable in so many ways. And Arias is actually having a better start to his career than Tony Gwynn.
Yeah,
he has the lowest strikeout percentage in baseball, 5.1. So it says a lot. And when you look at, I was looking at league leaders today, and his batting, there's nobody even close. And I think Eli mentioned this yesterday or in the last live stream. Nobody's even relatively close. I think it was Freddie Freeman who was hitting 338. So what Arias is doing is just truly impressive. Like, there it is. There's the
tweet
going up there.
Every day with this guy.
Look at the walks. That's the biggest thing to me. The walks.
Insane. I want him to homer at Lone Depot, just like he did in the WBC. I'm waiting for that to happen. Oh, he's quietly on how many games is that? He's on an 8-game hitting streak quietly. Luis Arias.
You know how crazy it is though that he's only hit one home run this year, and it just happened to be a game he hit in the cycle for. that is mind-boggling to me still.
Yeah, I think who was it that pulled up the stat on that? It's been done before, where there have been other guys that have hit one home run in an entire year and it happens during their cycle game, but it's been a while. I think it's happened maybe 2 other times in modern baseball history.
That's a Lewis.
So since 2015, Kevin?
Huh?
Since 2015?
2015.
Talking about modern baseball history. Yeah.
I wanted to ask this question from Devin. You to extend them. Do you guys think of that almost happening ASAP? And maybe what's the number you give on someone like Luis Arias? Do you give him anywhere 50, 60, 100? What's the number you guys give Arias?
I think they could swing probably a McNeil deal. So McNeil got what, 65 mil?
Even less. It was just 4 and 50 for McNeil with an option.
4 for 50. I think Arias, just because of the age difference, I think 70 would be a fair deal. And I think they can swing in negotiations, the defense and the power aspect. I mean, yeah, he's an amazing hitter, but
yeah, well, he's going to tell
you know what I mean. Like
Marlins history,
when you're negotiating a contract, you have to explain the value of it. So I mean, he's not an Acuna type player. He's extremely valuable, but I think we can get him for 70 mil in an extension.
Arias does have a lot to offer aside from that power. He's going to tell you.
You want 4 for 70 or 5 for 70?
Either would be nice.
I mean, either's he's going to be 26, right? He's going to want years.
You're going to want you're going to have to buy out 2 years of club control, 2 years of arbitration, and I assume you'd want at least 2 years of free agency after that. So I'd go 4 years.
So
my uneducated guess would be 4 years, 60 million, around that range. But that's so.
They probably backload it.
Yeah.
Again, not the point right now. It's not even going to be a conversation until at least the off season. So let's hope he's an all-star at least.
Yeah, and we can go from that all-star break, talk a little bit on that. The other potential all-star from the Marlins, Jorge Soler, hit 2 home runs yesterday, 19 home runs. He's so close to hitting 20. This guy is even close. What's he on pace for? Do we know? Is he on pace to what he did in Kansas City with 49? Or is he
Let me do the math right now. Times that, times 19. He's on pace for 46.5. So a little bit behind where he was in KC.
Regarding Arise, I have a question for you. I know you had said he'd probably finish somewhere close to the 342 magic number. In order for him to go all the way down there, you'd have to somewhat struggle the rest of the way pretty heavily. Why you don't think he ends above 350 at least?
If he's like entering this year, he was like a 314 career hitter. If he hits 314 the rest of the way, that's going to bring him down into right around 350-ish. In that area. If he goes back to simply being the player they thought they were getting in the first place instead of being the superhero, then that's kind of where he ends up. Yeah, for people that don't know what I was talking about, that's like how he relates to setting the Marlins franchise record, to beating out Hanley for when Hanley got that 342 chain. That's still the Marlins single season record for batting average. And I think Arise is going to finish above it. And 97% of people in our poll said that as well. But I think it's going to be pretty close. Because Arise, I think this is a career year. And even if it's a career year, I don't think he's going to come back down to earth a little bit. You just can't keep up a 400 something BABIP for the entire year. Or there have been a couple guys who've done it, but only a couple guys ever. It's pretty special. And for a guy with his ability, there still is somewhat of a ceiling here in terms of how many hits he could get when he just doesn't hit the ball hard. And, when he's just not an exceptional runner either. There's still some limitations, and that kind of is reflected in what we talk about with the contract situation with him. There's a reason why he's not getting paid like he wouldn't get paid like the true superstars in the sport, is because there's still some limits to his overall profile.
Mm-hmm. The best stat I think that makes me love Luis Arraez is it's called sweet spot percentage, right? It's like the percentage of baseballs that are hit within a certain launch angle, and that's why he hits for such a high average. It's because at that launch angle, it doesn't matter if it's 70 miles an hour or 100 miles an hour. It's going to be a hit like 90% of the time. It's like over the shortstop in front of the outfielders, and that's where he makes his money. And that's what I love about him, honestly.
Yeah, he's amazing, and he doesn't act like he's the best hitter on the team. He is the most down-to-earth, humble guy I've ever spoken to in that clubhouse. He's an awesome human being, and they need to keep him around for a very long time. I agree.
But we have a couple minutes before break. We're looking at the sweet spot percentage, and there's another name there, another Marlin, the third one right there, Brian De La Cruz. Kevin, I want you to talk to me about DLC. Since Noah's not here, you're the closest thing we have to a DLC enthusiast. So talk to us a little bit about DLC real quick before we head out to break.
I wouldn't say DLC enthusiast myself, but he's been pretty damn good. He's finally gotten to that point where we're seeing consistency. And that was the big thing. He was a very streaky hitter, and he's turned into a much more consistent hitter. We saw what he did in May, which was hit over 300, hit for the Luis Arraez career average. I believe it was 314. And now, kind of not in the same range, but he's still hitting way over the league average. And I mean, I wish he would get campaigned more for this All-Star game, because he's definitely deserved it. Little surprised his name wasn't in that top. I think it was top 10 or top 20 guys. I would have expected to see his name there, but it's all right. I mean, I think you could kind of make the case where his streakiness is kind of was holding him back, but it's going to be hard when Avi comes back with DLC. Not only DLC, but what Sanchez is also doing, Jesus. It's going to be hard to give Avi playing time when those two guys are right now arguably two of your best hitters on the team, along with Soler and Arraez. But what this guy's doing is really good to see. He's finally made adjustments, and what he did that yesterday was crazy. It's probably the hit of the year for him. So nice to see DLC finally find consistency, and obviously, I mean, they need him, and he's going to provide you the defense and the offense. So this is another good find for Miami, another really nice trade, and this was 2021, so this was Kemeng. So
the Yimi Garcia trade
there, yeah.
So you mentioned really quick that outfield. What do you do when Jazz and Avi come back and you have the outfield? DLC, Jesus, Avi, Jazz. Yep. You can only have three. What do you do? Who's the odd man out?
It's been B2. It's been talked about so often. But how great would it be if Jazz were a competent shortstop? Just put him at short. You have Sanchez, Avi, but then you don't really have a good defensive center fielder. But I think you would to have all four of those guys in the lineup at the same time and trade a little defense and center. That'd be delish, right? But no.
Or
just stick him at short, man.
Or he's a horrible shortstop. He's worse than Derek Jeter at shortstop.
He's been bad. It's short, but you know what I would do is I would trade Cooper, put Arise back at first. Jazz goes back home to second.
And you know what? I don't hate that.
I
either.
don't dislike that.
Right. I don't hate it. I just
Ryan's been pretty damn good at second though, but in the numbers
He has, but first base is his best position. I think it would pay to have him there. Jazz, I think, is better.
He's starting
to
prove you wrong on that one, Matt. He's starting to prove you wrong.
He's a good second baseman, but like first isn't bad. I don't think it would hurt the Marlins to go from Arise to Jazz at second, would it?
Can Jazz just put him starting? That's it. Like Shohei, we'll do that.
Jazz play third. I don't know.
I don't know.
He's saying that kind of jokingly. He's saying that jokingly just because the third base production has been so bad.
No, I know.
It has.
But before we get into all that, let's go ahead and go into our break. And after that break, we're going to go ahead and talk about this anticipated series against the Seattle Mariners. Some interesting pitching matchups and Isaac's. How do we call this? Isaac's
locks.
Isaac's locks.
Fade Isaac.
Isaac's delicious locks. Delicious locks. There we go. So we'll be that after the break. So stay tuned for that. And we are back now previewing this series against the Seattle Mariners in a little detail. Mariners 33, fourth in the AL West. You look at this team, and it's almost similar to the Marlins were last year. Offensively, they are at the bottom half in almost every category: average, hits, slugging, OPS, home runs, almost everything. But then you look at their ERA, top 5, they're top 12 for that, top 4 in WHIP. Ks per 9, top 10, everything. They are almost similar to the Marlins were last season. And then you look at these pitching matchups, which every single one you can make a case for. That is the pitching matchup of that night in all of baseball. You have Luzardo against Bryce Miller, Eddie Cabrera against George Kirby, and then you have Yuri Perez against former Marlins legend Luis Castillo. So, Danny, talk to me about this series. What do you like? Because Marlins, Mariners, this is always a fun series. Two teams from the opposite ends of the country.
I love that the Mariners swing and miss so much. I think we're going to see a lot of strikeouts from Luzardo, and I think this should be a sweep on the Marlins end. I know the Mariners, they do have the ability to put the ball over the fence, which the Marlins are susceptible to at times, but if we keep the ball in the ballpark, I think it'll be a really good series for us, and we can keep pace with the Braves. This is a really good. I think this is a really good matchup for us.
Yeah, especially when I look at that first one. Grant, Luzardo, Bryce Miller. Talk to us first about Luzardo. What can we expect from him heading back to the West Coast, a team he's familiar pitching against?
Yeah, quite familiar with this team, with his time with the Oakland Athletics, but Danny really hit on it. The Mariners just swing and miss a lot. It's going to really help Luzardo strikeout numbers. I think Luzardo's strikeout over under for this game is 7.5. That's the highest it's been all season. So if you're into that, we'll get the Isaac's picks here in a second, but that's a tough one. And something we've been talking about watching for Luzardo is, will he be able to go deeper in the games? We know Sandy can go deep in the games, but out of the rest of the starters, we alluded to this last night on State of the Fish, there really hasn't been a lot of pitchers that have been able to go 7 innings. I would love to see Luzardo work an efficient game, rack up some strikeouts, and outduel Bryce Miller, who's been blowing up his last 2 outings, but excellent start his rookie season in Seattle. He's one of my favorite rookies right now. This 2023 rookie class is so deep. But I think Bryce Miller is probably my favorite pitcher, if not for the other Miller, Bobby Miller. He's been great as well. But Bryce Miller versus Jesus Luzardo, that's a massive duel. I'm really looking forward to it. Should be a low-scoring game, I think.
That one and Yuri Perez versus Luis Castillo, that's another one that's going to be very fun. Likely.
And last time, and Castillo has crushed the Marlins in his career too. And the last time he pitched him was his infamous last outing with the Reds, and he just made light work of the Marlins. It wasn't even.
Dude,
it was close,
so
but he
all these pitching
them.
matchups are literally.
Castillo was so good last year. Is insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, to go a little bit there, Isaac, what do you want to see from Luzardo? How does he improve upon his top outing last time, his last start? How does he improve upon that?
It'll be very difficult to. I know Grant talked about his strikeout being at 7.5. It's all about going deep into games for him, and he's been able to do it. Just that second, you look at his numbers, innings 1 through 3. He's literally the best pitcher in baseball. And then really quick, it happens almost instantly, almost like that Sandy start and that horrible third inning against the A's. It just happens like that where he just loses it all almost. And then all of a sudden he's at 80, 90 pitches in the 5th inning. So he's going to have to stay efficient. It's hard for him to do that because he's such a strikeout guy. And a lot of his strikeouts come on full counts. So he's, getting 15, 20 pitches almost every single inning. So it really is difficult for this exact pitcher to go deep into ball games, but maybe you can learn something from Sandy, throw the sinker a little bit more and just pitch to contact and to be able to go deeper into those ball games. I think that would help the bullpen a lot. He's going to strike out 6, 7, 8 guys every single time out, but he's probably capped out at 5, 6 innings. So he's going to have to find a balance of pitching to contact while also, keeping the ball on the ground and keeping the ball off the bats in general.
Quick reminder that Miami did beat this team last season when they were down here in Miami. And, that team was a lot better last year, too. I mean, just how they were performing at the time. Julio was looking a lot better than he is this season. I know now they have some new pieces on that team.
Whoa, wait. I want to go back and fix the narrative on that. Julio was at rock bottom in Miami last year.
We actually got Julio going.
The Marlins fixed him. The Marlins fixed him.
You're right. Yeah. Now I remember.
He hit his first home run. First home run. It was a no-doubter. And and then from there on,
Danny Alvarez Montes going, empezó el J-Rod show. That's like what I remember. It was the home run, and then he took off.
I completely forgot that. Yeah, they walked Toro, and they gave.
I think it was a Sunday.
Julio, and Julio hit him deep center.
Yeah. And to answer Devin's
question,
that
was a nuke too. Jesus.
Yeah, Julio has been pretty good lately after getting off to a pretty underwhelming start to the year. He has been better, especially on
the. Has been really.
So really quietly, Julio is on a 30-30 pace if he just stays healthy. Ty France got off to another bad start too, and in recent weeks he's got an OPS over 1,000 over the last 3 weeks. He doesn't hit a whole lot of homers lately, but he gets on base.
I saw Kelenick's name in the All-Star voting as well. I know it's in Seattle, of course. Those fans are going to show up. But Kelenick has had a great year as well.
He's been what the Mariners hoped for since they got him.
He's come back down to earth a little bit, but overall, it's just as long as he does not striking out, and he does strike out a third of the time.
I've been watching a ton of Mariners games because I in fantasy, I wanted to watch Kelenick's at bats. It high in the zone and velo 95 plus. There's a 0% chance he gets it, and I think Luzardo's going to challenge him up in the zone tonight. Watch him take him deep because I said that, but that's what I've seen from his at-bats.
Too. Lefty is going to be tough.
Yeah.
You look at the middle of that lineup from Caballero down to
the lineup. Perfect. Thank you, Eli.
Oh, yeah, there's that one. You look from the middle. Oh, well, now this is different. All right, never mind. Forget what I said. I was just going to say they're a pretty patient team. They all had that middle part of that lineup that Eli was showing us before has over 10% walk rates, but
I was going to say the same thing. How do these guys walk a lot, or is that just me? Holy shit.
Who put me on there?
Eli did.
I didn't know. I didn't touch it. It was the close-up on you, and so I put it back to normal.
Oh, now looking at these lineups.
You can zoom in a little bit.
J.P. Crawford looking like he's been kind of hot as of late, especially hitting leadoff.
No, Kelenick's not even in there.
Oscar.
I would have been surprised if they had started him against Luzardo, to be honest.
AJ Pollock still in baseball. Okay.
He's not been good though. He's hitting. I think it's worse than Jacob Stallings.
He's there as a lefty killer, so it makes sense he's in there today.
That too.
Yeah, they're not putting in. I would have been afraid of their other catcher, Cal Riley, if he would have been there against Luzardo.
Cal Riley put up the quietest 30 home run season last year.
His last home run was 30, and at that point I figured out he was hitting bombs like that.
Yeah. You guys want some quick Luzardo or Arise propaganda real quick? The Marlins just posted something on Instagram. It is more crazy stats. Players with the
I'm
fewest
putting down a
strikeouts
Rise.
through first 450 career games: Scott Bradley, Terry Francona, Luis Ariz. That's the list.
I can pull it up for everybody to see in just a second.
Oscar.
I know
Eugenio
Suarez gotten it
Easy
going.
strikeouts.
Yeah.
Suarez is getting it back together after last season's nice for them. They had that huge Suarez and Winker trade as they got Winker because they took on Suarez's salary, and sure enough, they traded Winker because he was so bad last year. So it's kind of funny how that worked out for them.
I'll be honest, I've never heard of Scott Bradley until this graphic.
Make that two of us.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, you don't even know who Terry Francona is.
I do know who Terry Francona is.
He played in the dead ball era.
Yeah, sure.
But going back to that lineup, I want to go ahead and look at the Marlins one. Is there anything that really stands out to anyone? Again, we're having Luis Ariz this time leading off, maybe compared to maybe other where he's hitting fourth, fifth, third. And you have Garrett Cooper, DLC, anything? Maybe Gene Segura, where he's slated. Is that maybe any cause for concern? He has a really good game, and now he's hitting six.
I was meaning to skip this the other day, but I kind of wussied out because I didn't know if he had already been asked this recently because he had been hitting leadoff. Where does he prefer Luis Ariz? You know, there was a whole meat part of the season where he was hitting third in a run-producing spot, and they have him back at leadoff. Obviously, he's going to hit wherever he is, but, you know, when Jazz comes back, what are they going to do there? I'm very curious to see which he prefers. Obviously, right now he prefers him batting leadoff, but I sort of
if Jazz comes back and he leads off, I'm gonna have like an aneurysm or something. He needs to be. I think he needs to be fifth.
They need to hit him sixth or fifth. That is the best place to hit Jazz Chisholm.
100%.
That's his best place to hit him. Don't hit him in the top of the lineup.
He doesn't get on base. Yeah,
thank you. He's not.
I don't care what he looks like. He could look like a leadoff hitter. We're the 2002 Oakland A's. We look at what you do on the field, not what you look like. And if you don't get on base, you're not going to hit leadoff.
This is beautiful.
All right.
Yeah.
What do you guys think, Jazz?
Have Gene Segura.
Luis Ariz gets on base, so he leads off.
I agree with Devin. I agree with Danny.
Where do you guys put Avi in the situation? Because you know when he comes back, they're going to play him. They're going to have to play him.
Shanghai.
You probably put him fifth, depending on what the matchup is. Who's sitting? You probably hit him fifth or seventh or sixth. Jazz.
It's going to be tough when everyone's back and healthy. It's going to be tough to
it is going to be tougher, but hey, this is a good problem to have. I can remember in recent memory when a starter is coming off the IL and there's actually, you know, an issue of where to put him. So that can only mean something good.
I guess
I can't deal with the Avisail Garcia discourse anymore. He is what he is, and we're paying a bunch of money, but he cannot be in the middle of the order. That will kill whatever momentum we have with all the base runners we get. We've been rallying without a ton of home runs. Yeah, we've had a couple bombs here and there, but having a black hole hitting fifth in the lineup, it would be terrible.
Go from that. We got our injury updates from Jordan McPherson of the Miami Herald. Jazz running continuing baseball activities. Cueto is now going to throw 4 innings, 60 pitches Friday with AA. See what he does that. He had a pretty good shutout, 2 innings.
Danny, he didn't strike out a single person.
All right. The Marlins are paying me, Kev. The Marlins are paying me. And then you have Rogers, MRI of a right shoulder. So here's the thing with Rogers, MRI of a right shoulder. Let's say, you know, maybe the best doesn't happen, or he have to go back in the IL. Just what do you do with him there? And now, do you keep Yuri? Not keep Yuri. But
let me clarify something, Danny. When you talk about his shoulder, this is not a throwing shoulder.
Yeah, it's the other shoulder.
So this is a different situation where he'll probably come back pretty soon.
Well,
how did he even injure that shoulder?
That's what I want.
Says. I mean, reportedly, it was like right during warmups for the first inning, at the very last minute, feeling something in that non-throwing shoulder. It is, you know, if it was really nothing, then they would have said they would have had the all clear already on him. The fact that it still needs to be further evaluated, all of a sudden that heightens my concern a tiny bit on what exactly this means. It is notable that there's no new thing on Avi over these last few days, because it's now been a couple weeks, almost a week and a half, almost 2 weeks since he last played in like a rehab game. So we'll see that. That's a little interesting that there's no progress on him, because they described that as a minor setback originally, and now it seems still kind of stagnating on that.
I like how Danny just skips 6 those.
Yeah, I mean, do you guys want to have a Sixer conversation?
No,
Now,
no.
8 games over 500.
No, the only thing is I'd like to remind people that it is legal for the Marlins to recall him to the majors and hide him on the 60-day IL and open up a 40-man roster spot for somebody that actually plays baseball. And they haven't done that they didn't do that at all last year, and they haven't done that this year, even though 40-man roster spots are kind of useful. So I'll just remind people that is a maneuver they can make. All it does is it costs them a couple $100,000 because they have to pay him like a major leaguer instead of a minor leaguer. Right now he's on the minor league IL. So I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, so now with that, Isaac, this is your turn to shine, the Delish Corner. Talk to us about your Delish bets for June 13th.
Man. Okay, I get it. I use the word delish. I will have just a couple in case.
I'm going to say your bets are pretty capital.
What are we going to call the segment? Just so I can tweet it out. Isaac's what? Isaac's locks?
Delish Corner. The Delish Corner.
Isaac's locks.
I'm tailing Tanner McGrath tonight, though, by the way.
Yeah. You know what?
You.
Let me preface this with saying listen to Tanner McGrath way, more than you listen to me, please.
Fade Isaac.
But if I had to make 2 bets tonight, I would strongly consider you going over 1.5 total bases with Jesus Sanchez today. They're facing Bryce Miller, who throws his fastball 68% of the time. Jesus Sanchez, when he's batting, he hits fastballs 364. Against everything else, he's batting below 200. I think that's a match made in heaven. I like this ballpark for Jesus Sanchez. So that would be my first bet. And the second one is just a risky one that why not? The no-run first inning for this matchup. I don't usually make this bet, but that would be the bet I would make. This is the total runs are at 7.5. You have 2 great starting pitchers, and these are pitchers that really have great matchups, good splits the first time through the order. I don't usually make this bet. I never make this bet, but if I had to do it once, it'd be in this ball game, no run first inning at -150 odds, and the over 1.5 total bases for Jesus Sanchez is at +122. If you want to feel frisky, a home run for Jesus Sanchez is at +400. The safer bet would be +1.5, over 1.5 total bases for Jesus Sanchez. Those are my 2 locks, quote unquote.
I have one I like. I don't have nearly as great reasoning just because I think it's going to happen because every Marlins game has been kind of random recently. I like John Birdie to get an RBI at +220. I like those odds. And I feel like with the way the lineup stacks up tonight, you're going to have the LCM base. You're going to have all those middle of the order guys on base besides maybe Segura. I think Birdie pokes one out, the shallow outfield drives someone in.
In the future, Grant, if you're on these streams, you need to give us you do parlays. You should give the people like
good Lord.
It needs to be 4 legs or more. That's
you mean one of my Hail Mary parlays? Okay, Friday I will give a Hail Mary parlay. I'll do it.
Turning 10 cents into $10,000.
I've done some crazy
it's a lock,
stuff
bro.
before.
It's a lock.
It's a lock. It can't lose. It's the can't lose parlay. I have turned $4 into $50 on some Marlins games. I'll admit that. There's a lot of Marlins games where there is a script, especially at the bottom of the order. If you like to hate on the team, there's just some guys, some days, especially on days where Sandy Alcantara is pitching, and there's a certain someone in the lineup, you just hate on him.
Just go the under on Jacob Stallings, and I think.
I didn't want to say it, but yeah.
The under on Jacob Stallings is 0.0. So
exactly,
it should be in the negatives.
And it's a shame because, as Grant mentioned, usually on Jesus Luzardo days, I love to slam his strikeouts. But as Grant said, it's at 7.5. I don't feel comfortable. That's -130 to have him get at least 8 strikeouts. I don't love the value there. He'd have to pretty much have one of his better starts again this season. So stay away from the strikeouts.
I think a lot is have Jorge Soler home run. Jesus Luzardo starting. Soler always home.
It's a lock, but it's not good value though. The odds for that tonight are like +220. Yeah, it's
not the best value. I like
the odds. That's really crazy.
Yeah, but if it's gonna happen,
it's gonna happen. It's happened, I believe, 10 times already where he has a home run in one of his starts, and now in Seattle. But to go from there, let's go a little bit more into baseball.
Parlay it.
And talk about another Marlins starter, the one we didn't mention, Eddie Cabrera, going against George Kirby. Eddie having, we've seen a lot of walks from Eddie, exited his last start with a blister. we'll hear from Nick. Nick, talk to us about Eddie Cabrera. What do you expect from him? And maybe what Eddie Cabrera do you think we're going to see? Is it going to be the strikeout? Is it going to see a whole bunch of walks? What type of Eddie are we seeing against Seattle?
I think Eddie's going to look great against Seattle today. They do have a decent amount of those righties with at least at the top of the order with Julio up there and then Ty France. He's going to look good. They do have a good eye, as we were just looking at, and they do strike out a lot. So I think we're going to see a lot of what Eddie is good at, where he can strike out a lot of guys, but also is susceptible to walking a bunch of guys.
Probably high pitch count, scenario.
Yeah, I think the biggest goal of what we said with every pitcher is just what kind of length can we get from them. If they can get a lot of length, that's kind of all that's important. If you can get 5-6 innings, I know he averages kind of around 5 innings. Usually he gets taken out. So if he can get 6-7 innings, I think that'd be qualified as a good start. Stays under 1 or 2 walks. I think that'd be a good start for him.
If Eddie's not walking guys, this guy is on it. I mean, we've seen it with the last 2 starts. I feel like he was on a good roll before the blister issue hit him. I think it was in the 5th inning against the Royals. Besides that, he looked really good against Oakland. I mean, when Eddie's on it, he's on it. And and then there's the issue of the walks. And this is a team, as I mentioned prior, that likes to walk a lot and is very patient. So if Eddie gives up a lot of walks, then I think they're going to be in big trouble. But I mean, usually it looks like even though gets some walks sometimes, he's somehow still on it. And I think that was the start where it was like 10 or 12 strikeouts. I was there for that start. I can't quite remember the team right now, but it was a really good start. It was like one of the best starts to that season where he just walked like a couple guys, a good amount of guys actually.
Yeah. Talking about that, I think I'm going to go back to what Devin said about John Birdie and the Marlins, like not really running as of late. I don't know why it's bringing a smile to my face. Just like it's just incredible thinking about with John Birdie and everything. But
well, hold up a second. I want to look at the stats.
What's been happening with John Birdie? Because last season stolen base leader, everything, and now I believe looking at it, how many stolen bases does he have? Less than 10?
I meant to scold Eli yesterday. I think he undervalued John Birdie a little bit.
Is this a skip decision as well? I guess I'll add on to that question. Is that kind of up to him, or do you think Birdie's just wanting to run?
It's agreed. From what I understand, they don't necessarily send runners, say, hey, go run. They just have the green light most of the time. Once in a while, they'll have the red light. No one moves.
Which is the way most teams operate, honestly. So,
right. So that's the case. And, Eli's saying there's better options than John. I think John Birdie offers a lot of value to this ball club, even when he's not necessarily hitting. He's the best base runner on the team. You can put him in left field. You can put him all over the infield. I know he's got the worst arm. He's got Grant Keifer's got a better arm than John Birdie does. But I still think he offers so much value to this ball club, whether it's pinch running. Look at that. Do you think anyone else would have scored from first base on De La Cruz's go-ahead 2-run double yesterday? Absolutely not. John Birdie, he will work a good at bat.
Maybe Grant Keifer.
But John Birdie is a very good Major League Baseball player. Right. He has a role in all 30 Major League teams. I just thought that had to be said.
Right. I do want to touch on that this is a team-wide trend. The last 3 weeks, 9 stolen bases, which under these new rules, I could probably pull up. I imagine this is one of the lowest totals in baseball of any team over the last few weeks for a team that is usually on first base a lot. Stolen bases are an important part of this offense because they just, with the exception of 2 innings yesterday, they're just, and whatever Soler does on his own, they just don't produce runs via the home run as much as you'd like. So it is interesting that this has been a big removal from their offense. And it's, it's not a coincidence that it comes also where Garrett Hampson has disappeared.
I was going to mention him.
He has disappeared in plain sight. Even we've talked about this before about the alternatives for that roster spot, but what's clear is that they don't think Hampson can really contribute much at all, and so it's outside of some very niche situations. So he was a guy that when he was in the lineup, at least he has that speed where he's a pretty efficient and aggressive base stealer, but he's not in the lineup anymore. They just don't really have a role for him. So that's another part of it too, is that their speediest guys aren't getting a whole lot of playing time.
Yeah, and talking about playing time, I think, another guy to mention, Jonathan Davis. You have Garrett Hampson, Davis. between those two, who do you think is maybe most likely to stay on the roster? Would it be Davis just because the amount he's been playing as of late compared to Hampson?
Well, you just take it one move at a time. All indications, I think, at this point are that Jazz is going to make it back before Avi. So the question is, who goes for Jazz? I think just the usage kind of tells a pretty big story. The fact that Hampson hasn't been playing at all, I would imagine that he's going to be the very next man to go. You know, what made it valuable is having the infield, outfield versatility. But now they're kind of, if they believe in Segura finally clicking on, and the fact that Wendell has played a lot better lately, you know, there's just not much playing time to go around in the infield. So that takes away part of Hampson's game too. I think that the first corresponding move is going to be Hampson going down, but that's still like a full week away.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, with everything there, is there anything else anyone wants to mention? You know, could be anything. We still have time before predictions. The game is until 9:40. And Heat don't start till another half hour. Is there?
I just think that the Mariners have a very underrated rotation. I mean, that is a really, really good one.
They should be better.
They don't get a lot of love. And I think the Mariners are a sleeping giant out in the AL. I don't know if they get it together this series, but it's going to be tough in that AL playoff race. I was looking at the standings extensively not too long ago, and it is a bloodbath out there. I think the AL is more of what people thought the NL would be this year. The NL's kind of been a little disappointing, but the Mariners, that's still a very talented roster. And Julio's kind of having a sophomore slump, but if he can become even a shell of himself last year, they're scary.
Yeah.
No, that's what I was going to say, because when you look at that rotation, it's a pretty nasty rotation, and most of their guys are pretty damn good. And for what they did last season, I asked myself, you know, what's the difference this year this summer? And I know
I could see them catching fire, like a second half like streak.
Absolutely.
I could see that happening.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And not only that, they added to that because Jared Kelling's having a pretty damn good year. He's finally looking what like they expected to see out of him. And I know Julio and, as Eli mentioned, Ty France, they had slow starts this season, but they're kind of getting heated up. I mean, Julio still has a over league average WRC plus, and Ty France even more. So that team's going to catch fire, and I think Miami's playing the best out of the best team right now in terms of their road trip. This is the best team they'll be facing, and this is going to be Yuri's hardest challenge yet. I mean, you're facing an all-star in Julio Rodriguez, same with Ty France. I mean, they have a pretty damn good team and a really good player in Jared Kelenic. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes for Miami. And
they need it, because you look at how much they pushed to the table last year to go get Luis Castillo. That was a massive, massive trade package. I mean, that fast forwarded the Reds rebuild by like a year, maybe even 2 years, debatably. And I wouldn't say they gutted their farm, but there is most of the talent in that organization's at the major league level right now. They need to come away with something here in the next few years.
It's crazy how good they are. Yeah.
I really wish they scored a goddamn run at T-Mobile Park last year against the Astros. I really wanted them to just win a ball game in last year's division series. Okay.
Yeah.
That 16-inning game. What was that super long game, right? Like 16
Jeremy
or 17.
Pena ruined everything, bro. Was it 18 actually?
I forget. It was long.
It was very long.
It was so crust, bro. Like that place was ready to explode, and they didn't score a darn run.
That was a popular upset pick too. A lot of people thought the Astros were going out right there.
Robbie Ray shit the bed, bro, in the game one.
Imagine if they had him healthy right now. That 1-5 might be like top 3 in baseball.
Yes, Tommy John.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anything else, Kev? You want to talk any minors? Do you anybody want to bring
crazy?
Guys, we're at an hour. Let's predictions.
It's okay, Isaac. Relax. It's only 8 o'clock.
Let me do it this really quickly. I guess shout out to Jose Devers coming back from the dead,
for real,
becoming a decent player game. He just won the Southern League Player of the Week award. He had a couple of home runs. He had a multi-home run game in one game. This is a guy that wouldn't hit a home run in a whole year, even when he was like a legit prospect. That's been interesting to see. Only 23 years old. I think he's going to be second base only in the big leagues. If he gets back to the big leagues, yeah, not really on the radar this year, but I'll be curious to see what happens to him. If he continues this throughout the rest of the summer, then maybe he's an interesting guy to have around camp entering 2024.
I saw him on Kevin's live stream for his high school graduation. I saw Devers in that cap and gown.
I did want to give a quick shout out to most of these guys in almost every level. I know AAA Jeff Lindgren won the International League Pitcher of the Week or Pitcher of the Month.
Yep.
He's been pretty damn good up there, yeah. And then you have Fabian Lopez in I think DSL. He won Player of the Week. He's looked really good. He was a guy that was signed this past international signing period. It was Gennaro Miller, and then it was him, who's like probably one of the second best guys there. So they have talent, and nice to see the minor leagues getting some recognition there.
Yeah. So with that, Eli, I think it's time for predictions.
This is prediction time.
It's time.
Prediction time. For those of you always who may be new, in prediction time, you could choose who wins the series. Could be Marlins win 2-1, Mariners win 2-1, sweep, and your MVP could be from either team, hitter or batter, as we take a look as everyone's choice. LMF going DLC, Miami wins 2. Only 2 people chose Seattle to win it with Eric and Parker, so we'll see if that stands.
Yes. You make predictions with us every single series, so that's twice a week. If you become a super subscriber, and you can find the instructions for that, actually it's $3 a month, exactly $3 a month on our site, fishonfirst.com. And I know I just want to shout out TP Joseph, who watches almost all these streams. He gave his predictions in the chat before, right after I took the screenshot, and he had the Marlins winning 2 out of 3 as well. Yeah. So
all right.
I appreciate everybody that does it. There's a lot of people who super subscribe and they don't even give a shit about prediction time, but they still get a lot of value out of it, and they still enjoy supporting us that way. So yeah.
Where's Bella's prediction, Isaac?
I didn't see it. She still has time though. Still has time.
I forgot to send it to her. Let me tell her to do it.
So now let's start, of course, lead off for predictions. Kevin Barral.
Hold up a second.
Music.
Go, Kevin.
All right, I'm going to go Marlins sweep, and the MVP will be Jorge Soler.
Ooh, okay. Grant Kiefer.
I got a Marlins sweep just because I feel like they win the series whenever I predict the sweep. So I'm going to do it for greater good. I'm going to go Soler MVP, but I wouldn't be surprised if Luzardo puts up some big numbers tonight.
Eli.
I'm going to continue to doubt this team and hope that they prove me wrong. I have the Mariners winning 2 out of 3, going with Ty France as series MVP. He'll get at least 1 or 2 really clutch hits in this series.
So we'll leave Isaac for a little bit. It looks like I might have taken his prediction. Enter Nick.
All right. I'm running it back. I was perfect last week. Marlins are winning 2 out of 3. And Brian De La Cruz is going to be the MVP because he was born in December. Seattle Seahawks, 12th man going to Seattle. De La Cruz.
Wow. Danny.
Marlins sweep. It's a lock. Garrett Cooper is driving in at least 6 runs in the next 3 games. He's my MVP.
All right. I go to myself here. Marlins win 2 out of 3. MVP, Nick Fortes. Why not? Nick Fortes, MVP.
That's an MVP pick right there.
Eli completely stole my pick. I will go to the Mariners, take 2 out of 3. I was going to say Mariners sweep, but I think the Marlins salvage 1 game here. I'm going to go with Ty France as well.
Ooh. Viva la France. And that's it. That's everybody. Yep. Our predictions. Stay tuned for that. And maybe quickly, do the Heat win tonight?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The season
I think Hero gets injured again.
Oh.
That's a bad prediction.
All right. That does it for everyone here. As always, on FOF Live, presented by La Pop. That's LAPOP. And as always, go Marlins and go Heat.